Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive.
The podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
What if everything about past life memories, alien origins, and multidimensional realities isn't just wrong, but is designed to be wrong?
That's the massive question on the table today, isn't it?
It really is, because we're not just looking at a person or their ideas.
No, this is more like an autopsy. We're performing an autopsy on an entire worldview.
And our tools for this are a stack of documents we have here. They're dense, they're analytical, and frankly, pretty ruthless in their focus.
Very ruthless.
Yeah.
And the subject of that focus is the teachings of Matías De Stefano.
Right. For anyone listening who might have, somehow dodged the spiritual algorithm funnel, we should probably set the stage.
Yeah, a little context is probably a good idea.
De Stefano is a huge name in what you'd call the New Age space. I mean, huge. He's the individual who claims he has total conscious recall of his past lives.
And not just any past lives. We're talking specifically about Atlantis.
Exactly. He positions himself as a bridge to something called the Akashic Records.
Which is sold as this kind of a cosmic cloud server, a hard drive of everything that's ever happened in the universe.
That's a good way to put it. And his core statement, the thing everything hangs on, is simple. I remember. And when he says that, millions of people listen.
But we're not here to, recap his latest YouTube series or discuss whether his frequency feels good.
Not at all. Our source material today is, it's a set of critical analyses. We've got a foundational critique and something called a deception exposure list.
And these documents, they don't treat his claims as spiritual revelations. They treat them as case studies.
Case studies in what, exactly?
In neurologies and psychology, and maybe most importantly, in systemic power dynamics.
Right, so it reads less like a book review and more like a bomb disposal manual.
That's it. That's exactly it. And the mission for this whole deep dive, really, is to get at one single question. How does a narrative that is, by any objective measure, completely unprovable
and full of logical holes.
How does it manage to capture the belief and the loyalty of millions of people? Is it some kind of magic?
Or is it a mechanism?
Spoiler alert, it's a mechanism, and it's one we can take apart piece by piece.
So let's get the tools out. Let's start at the very foundation. Section 1 of our source material is called the foundational critique. And it goes right for the jugular. It targets De Stefano's central claim, the ability to recall these incredibly specific, detailed memories from millennia ago.
We're not talking about a feeling or a dream. He's describing, the specific technology used in Atlantis, the politics of alien DNA seeding programs.
Conversations he had with beings from other dimensions, and it all comes back to that simple, powerful phrase.
I remember.
And normally in these spiritual circles, that's where the inquiry stops.
It's the end of the conversation. The premise is he remembers it, therefore it must be true.
It's a binary choice. You either believe him or you don't. It's entirely faith-based.
But our source material, it just doesn't accept that premise. It comes at it with a neurological scalpel.
And it introduces a concept that is, I think, vital to understanding all of this. Confabulation bias.
Yes. And we need to be really, really clear about what this means.
Because it's not the same as lying. People hear false memory and they immediately think liar.
It's a critical distinction. Lying is a conscious act of deception. I know the truth. I know I ate the last cookie, but I tell you I didn't. I'm actively hiding the truth.
Right.
Confabulation is completely different. It's a brain process. It happens when your brain has gaps, missing information.
Okay.
And those gaps can be filled with anything. Fragments of dreams, movies you saw as a kid, books you read, your own emotional desires and fears. And the thing is, the brain absolutely hates a vacuum. It can't stand a gap in the story.
So it stitches things together.
Stitches them together into a coherent narrative to make sense of the world. It's a patch, a software patch for reality.
So from the inside, the person actually believes it.
Oh, 100%. They aren't sitting there thinking, how can I trick these people today? They are genuinely reporting on the movie that is playing inside their own head.
The memory feels completely authentic to them.
Just as real as your memory of what you had for breakfast this morning. And the source material argues that De Stefano's so-called memories of Atlantis, they align almost perfectly with this phenomena.
What's the specific diagnosis?
It's described as unchecked childhood imagination that's been massively amplified in what they call a highly suggestible individual.
So this is something that started young.
Yes, and that's key. The source mentions this process where if a child has a very vivid internal world, and that world is never challenged by external reality checks.
Or worse, if it's encouraged.
Exactly, if it's encouraged. Those neural pathways, they start to harden. They become the default road.
It creates a feedback loop.
A powerful one. The brain starts prioritizing the internal story because it's more compelling, more complete than the messy, often boring external reality.
And if he started this remembering as a kid, like the sources say,
Then by the time he's an adult, those circuits are set in concrete. So when he stands on stage, he's not necessarily lying to his audience in the conventional sense.
he's just reporting on a simulation his own brain has been running on a loop for decades.
Precisely.
Okay, so to try and measure this, the source applies what it calls a skeptical metric.
Right.
It uses something called the Popperian criterion of falsifiability. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. Karl Popper was a philosopher of science, and his big idea was basically this. For any claim or theory to be considered scientific, there has to be some conceivable way to prove it wrong.
Okay, give me an example.
If I make the claim, all swans are white, that's a scientific statement. Not because it's true, but because it's falsifiable.
You just have to find one black swan.
Exactly. The statement invites you to challenge it. It opens itself up to being disproven. A non-falsifiable claim would be something like, there's an invisible, undetectable dragon in this room.
You can't prove it's not there.
You can't. It's a sealed room, logically speaking.
So when our source material applied this falsifiability test to De Stefano's claims, what was the score?
It got a 0 out of 10.
And 0.
A flat 0. Because there is literally no way to prove any of it wrong. If someone says, I remember attending a council meeting on a planet in the Sirius B system 40,000 years ago. What do you do with that?
There are no flight logs to check, no minutes from the meeting.
You can't go dig up the archives. And this is the absolute hallmark of pseudoscience. It lives in that sealed room.
And this leads to another point in the source, the evidence gap.
A chasm, really.
Right. For all the talk of these hyper-advanced civilizations and alien interventions, there are 0 physical proofs.
No alien alloys, no Lampian microchips, no archaeological validation that stands up to any kind of scrutiny, nothing.
And the source really pushes back on the common defense you hear in these circles, which is, I don't need proof because it resonates with me.
Ah, yes, resonance. That's the get-out-of-jail-free card for any and all critical thinking.
The source calls this concept the ego trap. Why that name?
Because when people say a story resonates what is actually happening psychologically, the source argues that what they're really saying is, this story makes me feel special. It makes me feel important.
It's a pretty harsh reading of it.
It is, but let's follow the logic. Our actual history, the one supported by evidence, is, well, it's messy, it's complicated. Evolutionary biology tells us we're basically clever primates who got lucky, slowly evolving over millions of years. It's not a very glamorous story.
So this narrative comes along and replaces it.
It replaces that complex, humbling story with a pre-packaged New Age trope.
And suddenly you're not just a person stuck in traffic worried about your mortgage.
Suddenly, you're a dormant Atlantean priestess with a galactic mission to anchor a new frequency on Earth. Which story would your ego rather believe?
It's an easy choice when you put it like that.
It's the ultimate ego boost. And this is where the source uses another very strong phrase. It diagnoses the narrative pattern as being structurally similar to schizophrenia-like.
Whoa, okay, we absolutely have to clarify that. The source is not making a clinical diagnosis of Matías De Stefano as an individual, right?
Absolutely not. That's a crucial point. It's not about diagnosing a person. It's about analyzing the pattern of the claims.
So what are the characteristics of that pattern?
Vivid, unverifiable internal realities presented as fact, a blending of the internal world and the external world, and a complete detachment from the need for material evidence.
It creates a closed loop.
A perfect self-validating loop where the only proof required is the guru's assertion. Trust me, I remember. It mimics the structure of a delusion, even if the person presenting it is, in all other respects, a very high-functioning individual.
Okay, so that's the hardware. That's the neurology of a single brain potentially creating a false but deeply believed reality.
Yes.
But that doesn't explain why thousands or millions of other people believe him.
No, it doesn't.
And that brings us to the next section in our documents, psychological infiltration. This isn't the hardware anymore. This is the software. This is how the virus gets installed on other people's machines.
And this is where it moves from perhaps a personal delusion into something that looks a lot more like active manipulation.
The source starts by deconstructing what it calls narrative hypnosis techniques.
And hypnosis is not used lightly here. This isn't just about telling a good story.
It's about the language itself, the phrasing.
Yes. If you listen to De Stefano speak for any length of time, you'll notice these very specific rhythmic repetitions.
Yes.
Phrases like, I am, remember, harmony, the grid.
It's almost like a chant or a mantra.
It has a musical quality. It's a technique called hypnotic induction. You use repetitive, soothing language to lull the conscious mind.
You're bypassing the brain security guard.
You're bypassing the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of you that folds its arms and asks, hang on, is it actually true? Where's the evidence?
And instead, you're speaking directly to what? The emotional part of the brain.
Directly to the limbic system, the seat of emotion, belief, and feeling. The source has a name for this. It calls it psyops for meaning-longing exploitation.
Meaning-longing exploitation. Wow. That's a heavy phrase.
It is, but it's precise. It implies that our fundamental human desire for a meaningful life is being targeted and used as a vector for this virus.
Let's unpack that. I mean, think about the modern world for a second.
It's chaotic. It's confusing.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it feels deeply unfair and at times utterly meaningless.
We feel like a cog in a machine we don't understand.
We have this profound, aching hunger for significance, for a story that tells us our life matters.
And this narrative comes along and offers a 5-star meal.
It offers more than that. The source argues that it offers a dopamine trigger, a chemical reward.
A literal drug hit.
Yes, it actually cites psychological data suggesting that what it calls chosen narratives.
What's a chosen narrative?
It's any story that tells the audience they are special, that they are part of a secret elite group with a vital mission, that they are the chosen ones.
The 144,000, the starseeds, the light workers.
All of it.
Yeah.
The data suggests that these narratives can boost self-esteem by as much as 20 to 30% in suggestible audiences.
That is a massive neurological reward. If you're feeling beaten down by life, if you feel like a low-vibration person in a mundane world.
And someone comes along and hands you a narrative that says, actually, you are misunderstood royalty from another dimension, and your suffering is part of a noble plan.
Your brain just floods with dopamine. It feels incredible.
It's the exact same neurochemical mechanism used in love bombing by narcissists, or in the initial stages of cult indoctrination. You get this euphoric high.
And once you're high on that feeling,
You're compliant. You'll do anything to get another hit.
and this leads to what the source calls the spiritual carrot.
Hmm.
It points out how struggle, pain, and conflict are framed within this worldview.
This is so important. In this system, things like wars, famines, social injustice, even personal trauma,
Yeah.
they aren't presented as tragedies. They aren't failures of policy or empathy.
They get reframed.
They're reframed as necessary evolutionary conflicts or tools for creating harmony.
So if a war breaks out, killing thousands of people,
It's just the universe balancing its energies. It had to happen for the great shift to occur.
and that is an incredibly seductive idea.
Why? Because it absolves you of all responsibility.
You don't have to do anything about the messy reality of it. You don't have to protest or donate or change policy or volunteer.
No. Your only job is to sit in your room and hold the frequency or raise your vibration.
Which, our source argues, diminishes human agency to almost zero.
It absolutely neuters it. And in the process, it positions De Stefano not just as a storyteller, but as the electrician. The electrician. The only one who understands the cosmic wiring diagram. The only one who can tell you which frequency to hold.
And that fosters what the source calls guru dependency.
It creates a vertical power structure. You have the problem. You forgot who you are and why you're here.
And he and only he has the solution, the memory, the knowledge, the activation.
You can't get it on your own. You need him as the intermediary.
It's the oldest model in the book.
It's the model of priestly control. It's been used for thousands of years.
Okay, so we've got the neurology creating the story in one person's head, and the psychology that sells that story to millions of others.
Yes.
But who's actually buying it? And more importantly, who profits? This brings us to section 3 of our source material, the systemic power analysis.
This is where we follow the money.
And the source doesn't pull any punches. It bluntly calls the entire operation a wellness industry grift.
Grift is a strong word, but when you look at the numbers, it's hard to argue.
We have a specific data point in here from one of his events in Egypt.
Yeah, this was eye-opening. The document cites an attendance of around 3,000 people.
3,000. Now, just think about the logistics of that for a second.
We're not talking about a local workshop. These are 3,000 people who are, for the most part, paying for international flights, for hotels, for food.
And that's all before they even pay the ticket price for the event itself.
The revenue generated from these large-scale activations, the tours, the online university, the courses, it's astronomical.
And the source argues that this whole system keeps itself stable by using what it calls ethical facades.
It looks like a spiritual movement for world peace and enlightenment.
But operationally, when you look at the cash flow,
It's a business model, a very, very profitable one.
but the analysis goes deeper than just the money. It looks at the central metaphor that's being sold.
This, for me, is maybe the most dangerous part of the whole ideology.
The idea of humanity as cells in a planet.
Right. De Stefano often uses this metaphor. He says we're all just cells in the body of Gaia, of the Earth. You might be a liver cell, I'm a heart cell, that kind of thing.
By the surface, it sounds kind of nice, connected, holistic.
It sounds lovely. But metaphors have political consequences.
Yeah.
And the political theorist in me just sees red flags everywhere with this one.
Why? What's the danger?
Well, think about it. If we are just cells, what is the value of a single cell?
It's functional and it has a job to do, but individually it's not that important.
Exactly. If the body, the Earth, needs to run a fever to fight off an infection, say through global warming or a massive war,
Then the cells that die in the process are just collateral damage.
it's just part of the process. A liver cell doesn't have human rights. It doesn't have individual sovereignty. It has a function to perform for the greater good of the body.
So this metaphor can be used to justify systemic injustice.
It's the perfect tool for it. It frames inequality not as a failure of our social or economic policies, but as a natural, even necessary part of evolution.
So if you're born into poverty,
Well, maybe you're just a foot cell, and your job is to be a foot cell. You shouldn't be complaining or trying to be a brain cell. You should just accept your place in the great cosmic body.
it's spiritual feudalism.
That's a great way to put it. And the ultimate question then becomes, who benefits from a population that believes this?
The people at the top of the hierarchy.
The elites, as the source calls them. The people who actually thrive on chaos and inequality. If the general population can be convinced that their suffering is just a necessary part of the planetary transition,
They stop fighting back. They stop demanding better wages, better health care, a cleaner environment.
they just close their eyes and try to raise their vibration while the world burns around them. It's the ultimate tool of social control.
The source actually maps out this power hierarchy very explicitly.
It's a pyramid.
At the very top, level 1, you have the guru.
He's the one who hoards the knowledge. He is the essential intermediary, the gatekeeper.
Below him, level 2, are the elites.
The actual political and economic powers that benefit when the masses are passive and focused on internal spiritual matters instead of external material ones,
And then at the bottom, level 3, you have the seekers.
who are often labeled within the system itself as the low-vibe dependents.
The result of this entire structure, according to the source, is intermediary exploitation.
A perfect phrase. Your personal autonomy is reduced to this idea that you're just performing missions that you supposedly planned out in the space between your lives.
Oh, I must have chosen this traumatic childhood before I was born to learn a lesson.
Right. It's a way of making sense of pain. But in this life, the one you're actually living right now,
You're just a paying customer in his system.
that's the function you serve in the here and now.
Okay, it's a bleak picture. If this is a trap, a cage, what are the bars made of?
That's a good question.
Our source material provides an answer. It's a section called the Armory of Deceptions. It's basically a list of specific concepts that act as mind shackles.
The individual bars of the cage.
Exactly. So I want to try something here. Let's go through these rapid fire. I'll throw out the concept, and you give me the lens the source uses to expose it.
Okay, let's do it. I'm ready.
All right. First concept up. Past lives as literal memories. The idea that you were actually Cleopatra or a priest in Atlantis.
Okay. The deception type here is suppressed evidence. And the lens to view it through is what the source calls the noble lie of spiritual capitalism.
Unpack that. Spiritual capitalism.
It means it takes a spiritual idea and turns it into a product. The idea that your current suffering is just karma from a past life is a product. Why? Because it stops you from looking at the real material causes of your suffering right now.
Like economic inequality or systemic injustice.
Precisely. It individualizes a systemic problem. And it keeps you bound to the guru because he's the only one who can read that past life history for you and tell you what your karma is. It polishes the chains of exploitation and makes them look spiritual.
Okay, next one. Between lives as missions. This is the idea that before we're born, we sit down with some guides and plan out all our trauma. I choose to be abused in this life so I can learn forgiveness.
The type here is a false dichotomy. The lens is puppet show life.
Puppet show life. I like that.
It completely strips the chaotic, random, and often meaningless nature of reality. Bad things happen, sometimes for no reason at all. This doctrine can't accept that. It has to impose a bureaucratic order on it.
It's a story that makes trauma feel manageable.
It's a coping mechanism, absolutely, but a dangerous one because it prevents you from holding abusers and unjust systems accountable in the present. If they were just playing a role you asked for, how can you be angry? It defangs your righteous anger.
Okay, here's a core one. Self-trust via guru, the idea that you need to listen to him in order to learn how to trust yourself.
Ah, the great paradox. The type is a classic appeal to authority. And the lens is simple. Hands over sovereignty.
It's the ultimate irony, isn't it?
It's absolutely breathtaking. You're told, trust your intuition, trust your inner guidance. But there's a huge asterisk.
Which is?
You should only trust your intuition if it agrees with what the guru is telling you. The moment your intuition says, hang on, this guy might be full of it, you're told that's your ego, or your vibration is too low, or you're stuck in 3D thinking.
It's a system designed to dismantle your own gut bullshit detector.
It's the primary objective.
All right, let's go big picture. Aliens as originators. The belief that human DNA was seeded by beings from the Pleiades or Sirius or wherever.
The type is revisionism, historical revisionism. The lens is alienated evolution.
Alienated from our own evolution.
Yes, it's a narrative of species-level inferiority. It says that we as humans couldn't possibly have figured things out on our own. We couldn't have built the pyramids or developed complex language or understood astronomy without some taller, blonder aliens coming down to hold our hands.
It's actually quite insulting.
It's deeply insulting to the ingenuity and brilliance of our ancestors. It robs us of our own achievements and hands them to some off-planet saviors. It alienates us from our own human heritage.
Okay, here's a huge one in this world. The 9 dimensions ladder. The idea that we're all climbing from the 3rd dimension to the 5th and beyond.
Right. The type is a slippery slope fallacy. The lens is pyramid climbing, not the Egyptian kind.
A spiritual pyramid scheme.
That's exactly what it is. It shatters any illusion of spiritual equality and creates a rigid hierarchical class system for the soul. Oh, I'm vibrating in the 5th dimension, so I understand things you poor 3D people can't.
It's a way to feel superior.
It's a cosmic corporate ladder, and its function is to keep you busy climbing a structure that doesn't actually exist so that you don't spend your energy trying to dismantle the power structures that do exist here in the 3rd dimension, like wealth and equality.
Wow. Okay, how about this one? Harmony justifies war.
Oof, yeah. The type is fear control. And the lens is that it consents to bloodshed. It programs what the source calls the battlefield mind.
The battlefield mind.
A mind that can look at atrocity and feel nothing. If you truly believe that a war is a necessary act of energetic balancing to create harmony, you become a passive, consenting observer to violence. Your moral outrage is anesthetized. You become complicit through your inaction.
Chilling. Okay, last one for this round. Raising vibration escapes. The idea that if you just meditate enough and think positive thoughts, you can escape the problems of the world.
The type here, according to the source, is suppressed class consciousness. It's a term borrowed from Marxism. The lens is that this ideology despises the low self.
What does that mean?
It means it subtly, or not so subtly, mocks the poor and the struggling. If you can't pay your rent, this worldview says it's not because wages have stagnated and housing costs have exploded. No, it's because your personal vibration is too low.
It's the ultimate form of victim blaming.
Masquerading as spiritual empowerment. It takes a systemic political problem and turns it into a personal moral failing. It's a brutal ideology when you strip away the pretty language.
It is absolutely ruthless when you lay out the components like that.
It's a perfectly closed system. Every potential exit door you might find just turns out to be painted on the wall.
But our source material doesn't just stop at deconstructing the mechanics. It goes a step further. It places all of this into a much larger philosophical and historical context.
Yes. Section 5, the expansive contextualization. This is my favorite part because it demonstrates that none of these New Age ideas are actually new.
They're just old tricks in new clothes.
Yeah, old tricks. Recycled control mechanisms.
So the source does this by creating matchups. It takes one of De Stefano's control mirrors and holds it up against a legitimate philosophical rebuke.
A philosophical smackdown.
Let's walk through a few. The first topic is past lives as resonant frequencies.
Right. The idea that your status in this life is determined by who you were in a past life.
The source compares this control mirror to the divine right of kings from feudal Europe.
It's the exact same logic. In feudalism, the king ruled because God ordained it. His authority came from a higher unseen power. You couldn't question it. You couldn't vote him out.
And in this New Age framework,
The guru teaches because of his resonant lineage. I was a high priest in Atlantis, so I'm qualified to be your teacher now. It implies that some souls are just born to rule and teach, and others are just born to follow and listen.
it's fundamentally anti-democratic.
To its core, it establishes a spiritual aristocracy.
So what's the philosophical rebuke to that?
The source offers a few, but the main one is from Buddhism, the doctrine of anatta, or no self.
How does that counter it?
Buddhism argues that there is no permanent, unchanging soul or self that travels from one body to the next, carrying a CV of its past accomplishments. Karma is an impersonal law of cause and effect, not a personal story of your ego's journey. De Stefano's version is all about my story, my importance, my memories. It's intensely egocentric.
And the source also brings in Foucault here.
Yes, his concepts of power knowledge. Foucault argued that claiming to have secret, exclusive knowledge is a primary way to exert power and control over people. If I'm the only one who knows the true history of the universe, I own you. I discipline you into a hierarchy where I'm at the top.
Okay, next matchup. The idea of harmony over peace. The source connects this to social Darwinism.
This is the control mirror of raw capitalism. Social Darwinism, the idea of survival of the fittest applied to society, says that exploitation is just natural. If a company goes bankrupt or a worker is exploited, that's just the market sorting things out.
And De Stefano's idea of harmony does the same thing.
It's the same logic on a cosmic scale. If a nation is bombed or a population starves, that's just the universe balancing energies.
Yeah.
It removes all moral outrage and replaces it with a kind of detached, aesthetic appreciation for the pattern.
And the philosophical rebuke for that?
Two big ones. First, Stoic apatheia. The Stoics did argue for inner equanimity and not being disturbed by external events you can't control. But they never argued for embracing chaos as good or necessary. In fact, they believed deeply in civic duty and justice.
And the second one is from anarchist theory.
Yes, specifically the work of Peter Kropotkin. He wrote a book called Mutual Aid, A Factor of Evolution, where he argued with tons of evidence from the natural world that cooperation, not conflict, is the primary driver of evolutionary success.
So we survived as a species because we helped each other.
Precisely. Not because we stood back and passively accepted war and suffering as harmony.
Let's tackle the aliens again. The control mirror of alien origins of humanity is compared to colonial manifest destiny.
It's an unnerving but perfect comparison. It's the same narrative structure.
How so?
The civilized, technologically superior beings, the European colonizers or the Pleiadian aliens, arrive in a primitive, savage land, the Americas or planet Earth, to uplift the natives.
It frames the invader as a benevolent savior.
The white man's burden becomes the starseed's burden. It's a colonialist fantasy dressed up in sci-fi clothes.
And the source's exposure for this is from critical theory.
Yes, specifically Adorno and Horkheimer. Their work on the culture industry is relevant here. But the main idea is alienation. This narrative alienates us from our own material history. Instead of looking at a magnificent ancient structure and saying, wow, look what incredible things human beings are capable of, it teaches us to say.
The aliens must have built it.
It hollows out our own heritage and reinforces a sense of dependency and inferiority.
Last one from this section, the nine-dimensional reality. The source compares this control mirror to Platonic forms.
Right. Plato's idea was that our physical world, the world we see and touch, is just a flawed, shadowy copy of a perfect, ideal world of forms.
And the 9D model is basically the same thing.
Exactly. It says our third dimension is just a dense, corrupt, low-vibration shadow of the more real and perfect higher dimensions. Its primary function is to devalue the material world you actually live in.
And what's the rebuke to that?
The hardest one imaginable. Marxist materialism.
Okay.
Marx would just laugh at this. He would say, look around you. The class struggle is happening here. Hunger is happening here. Labor exploitation is happening in 3D, not in 9D.
So focusing on climbing a dimensional ladder is a distraction.
It's the ultimate distraction. It's a convenient middle-class spiritual bypass to avoid engaging with the messy, difficult, and very real political and economic problems of the world we inhabit. As Foucault would add, the dimensional ladder is just another form of gatekeeping. It's an imaginary structure designed to keep you from dismantling the real one.
So we've taken the machine apart, we've looked at the neurology, the psychology, the power dynamics, the philosophy. We see the gears and levers.
We're standing in the rubble in the deconstruction.
But our show isn't just about tearing things down. We can't leave people there. There has to be a path out.
There is. Section 6 is called Advanced Liberation. It's about how to reclaim your own cognition.
It starts with what the source calls the metacognitive paradox.
This is a beautiful piece of analysis. De Stefano often claims that he has no personality attachment. He's just a channel, a vessel for information.
A very common claim among channelers. It's not me, it's the information.
Right. But at the same time, his entire brand is built on his unique, personal ability to recall things. I remember Atlantis. You don't. You need me.
It's an enormous ego trip disguised as humility.
Precisely. And the source argues that what he's actually recalling aren't objective truths from the Akashic records. They are cultural archetypes that his own mind has absorbed and remixed.
He's pulling from movies, books, video games, ancient myths.
Everything he's ever been exposed to, all woven together by that confabulation mechanism into what feels like a coherent memory.
Okay, so recognizing that is the first step. What's the actual path out? The source outlines a sovereignty progression.
It's a three-step process. Step 1 is to spark doubt.
Just allow for the possibility that it might not be true.
And specifically, you have to recognize the gut census trap. You have to accept that just because something feels true or exciting or resonant, that doesn't mean it is true. Your gut feelings can be hacked by a good story and a dopamine hit.
Okay, that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. What's step 2?
Step 2 is to dismantle via tools.
Use the tools we've been talking about.
Exactly. Demand evidence, ask falsifiable questions, scrutinize that dopamine hit. Ask yourself honestly, am I believing this because there's proof, or am I believing this because it makes me feel like the main character in a cool sci-fi movie?
Be honest about the ego trap.
You have to be, which leads to step 3, synthesize rebellion.
Rebellion against what?
Rebellion against external authority. This is where you learn to think for yourself again. The source says the ultimate synthesis is identifying the one keystone lie that holds the entire structure up.
And that lie is?
The lie that you need an external framework to be true. The lie that you need a guru or a sacred text or a map of the 9 dimensions or an activation to be whole and complete.
The source uses this amazing phrase here. It says you have to burn the self-trust blaze.
It's about rejecting all those external chains in favor of raw, unmediated autonomy. It's about choosing your own chaotic, messy freedom over their comfortable, prepackaged cage.
And what does that look like in practice? Rebellious alternatives.
It means you reject the dimensional ladders. You forge your own meaning in this life right here without needing a paid activation. You find your own purpose.
Real intellectual freedom, it says, comes from one place.
Awareness of your own brain's capacity for confabulation. The moment you can humbly admit my brain can lie to me, my feelings can be misled, you are vaccinated. You're immune to the narrative hypnosis.
You become the immune system for your own mind.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
You stop waiting for a download from the Pleiadians, and you start looking with clear eyes at the beautiful, terrifying, and very real world right in front of you.
This has been an intense deep dive.
It's heavy stuff.
We've stripped away the magic, the aliens, the beautiful stories of Atlantis and past lives, and what we're left with is a mirror.
A mirror, yeah.
And it shows something kind of unflattering. It shows how easily our own deepest desires, our desire to be special, to be important, to have meaning, can be turned into weapons against us.
It does. But that same mirror shows something else too.
What's that?
It shows our potential for this kind of critical thought. The very fact that we can perform this deconstruction, that we can see the machinery behind the curtain, proves that we are not just mindless cells or low-vibe dependents.
We are rational, sovereign, capable human beings.
And in the long run, owning that reality is far more powerful and far more empowering than any fairy tale about being a priest in Atlantis could ever be.
I think that's the perfect place to leave it.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. Knowing what you know now about these mystical narratives, what's one small rebellious act you can do this week to reclaim a piece of your own cognition?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative, deconstruct the dogma, see the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical. Thank you for joining us.